Chapter 29. Holiday. "Take a seat," Wayne said, waving a hand towards the sofa at the back of her office. Eve and Dana were still in school uniform as they sank onto the foam cushions. "Joel Reagan believes that women are the key to our survival after the apocalypse," Wayne began, as she propped herself against the edge of her desk, facing the two 15-year-olds. "Most of the senior positions inside the Ark and our communes are taken up by women. Our ceremonies are always conducted by women. After the dark time, girls such as yourselves will become the bedrock of our new civilization. Mothers, wives, and leaders." Dana had been with the survivors long enough to know that this kind of flattery always led up to somebody wanting something. "I'm sorry you couldn't go to the Ark boarding school with your siblings, Dana. Eve, you're easily bright enough to attend yourself, but your work with our most difficult teenage recruits has been magnificent. We simply couldn't spare you. But we have found a special project that suits both of your talents. It will only take a few days, but it will get you both noticed at the highest level inside the Ark." Dana glanced at Eve's excited face. She found it extraordinary that someone as bright as Eve could have mastered all the manipulative skills of the cult without being able to see that she was being manipulated herself. Nevertheless, Dana was intrigued and felt slightly excited herself. Maybe it wasn't just James and Lauren who'd have a role in this mission. "The Survivors is a vast organisation," Wayne continued. "Our financial obligations are equally vast. The Ark under construction in Nevada will cost $7 billion, and the planned Arks in Europe and Japan will require the purchase of huge tracts of land in countries where space is precious. Our church desperately needs money to complete these projects, and you girls have been selected to help. Before I can continue, you must swear to absolute secrecy. You'll have to hide the real purpose of your mission, even from your friends and family." Wayne reached across her desk and grabbed a Bible and a copy of the Survivor's Manual. "You must take these books and swear our highest oath." Eve clutched the two books to her heart and looked at Dana, as if to say, "Oh my God, isn't this the most amazing thing ever?" "I swear on these sacred books as an angel, on pain of eternity in a fiery hell." Dana took the books and tried to add gravitas to her voice as she repeated Eve's oath. "You mustn't tell a soul," Wayne repeated. "Tell your parents and siblings that you are being taken for a short course at the Sydney commune." "But what exactly is the mission?" Dana asked. Wayne shook her head. "I am not allowed to know. But the request came directly from Susie Reagan. 2 girls, strong athletes, and strong swimmers. If you both accept this honour, I'll arrange for immediate flights to Darwin." Lauren had no time for boys. She found them loud, obnoxious, and didn't care for either their obsession with sports or their apparent reluctance to wash after playing them. Even when her best friend Bethany briefly took leave of her senses and got off with a boy called Aaron, whose breath always smelled of cheese and onion crisps, she wasn't tempted by any of the invitations for a double date. So it surprised Lauren that she found herself liking Rat. He was big for 11 and stood with the tip of his nose just level with Lauren's eyes, which somehow seemed exactly how it should be. Rat was good looking, apart from the squash nose, obviously clever, and the way he stood up for himself against the odds made him seem heroic and vulnerable at the same time. Above everything else, though, Rat was a good laugh. As Lauren worked efficiently, delivering messages, mastering the photocopier, and generally being an obedient little survivor, Rat constantly mucked around. 2 staplers became yapping dogs that skidded around a desktop, farting and humping each other. Rat demonstrated his toughness by betting Lauren that he could put the tip of his tongue on the hot bulb inside a desk lamp and hold it there for 10 seconds. He lasted less than 3 before sprinting off to the water cooler in agony. He also proudly gobbed into the steaming coffee mug of a barrel-shaped accountant who'd scolded Lauren for fetching the wrong file. Of course, boys always showed off and tried to get attention. But Rat was easier to swallow because his outcast status meant that he didn't have a line of idiotic mates pushing him to take things too far. As 6 o'clock and the end of their work assignment drew near, Rat approached Lauren holding out a slim leather binder. "How'd you like to meet Le Grand Fromage?" Lauren smirked. She knew it meant the big cheese in French. "Joel Reagan?" Rat nodded as he opened the binder, revealing freshly printed letters and checks stacked inside rows of cream-coloured slots. "My dad has to sign this stuff. You just take it out to the residence, knock on the door of his room, and wait by his bed while he deals with it." Lauren nodded enthusiastically. She realised that the walk to the residence and back would probably make her late for dinner, but she'd heard tons of stories about Joel Reagan's mega opulent residence, and there was no way she was going to turn down a chance to meet him. Rat, who appeared to have intimate knowledge of every underground tunnel and room inside the Ark, drew the quickest path from the office to the residence on the back of a compliment slip. The journey involved taking a spiral staircase 2 floors below ground level and then heading several hundred metres along a cramped passageway that had condensation on the ceiling and patches of mildew on the walls. This ended at a heavy doorway, which budged after a few worrying seconds, during which Lauren thought she wasn't strong enough and might have to walk all the way back. The door took her into the luxurious ambience of the residence. There was none of the woodchip wallpaper, growling air vents, and acres of magnolia paint that dominated the rest of the Ark. The broad corridor was lined with white marble, and the air was scented with vanilla. At one edge, there was a 20-centimetre gutter into which water trickled and fresh white flowers bobbed around in floating glass pots. Lauren saw that Rat had drawn a left-facing arrow, followed by a long curve, on his set of directions. The curve was an upwards ramp. One side was fronted with floor-to-ceiling glass and overlooked an outdoor spa. The other was hung with large paintings. Lauren was no art buff, but even she realised that anything 3 metres wide, with Picasso's distinctive signature in the bottom corner, must have cost millions. "Can I help you, young lady?" Lauren looked up to see an Asian man dressed in a 3-piece suit, leaning over a chrome railing. "I'm from the office," Lauren explained, feeling underdressed in her scruffy rugby shirt and oversized shorts. "Ah," the man said. "Where is Rathbone?" Lauren answered as she turned onto a flight of stairs and began stepping up on some extraordinarily deep carpet. "He got held up doing some filing, so they sent me." The butler walked in front of Lauren. His white-gloved hands were joined behind his back, except when he leaned forward theatrically to allow her through one of the solid maple doors. Several turns and 5 doors took the pair into a darkened room. The curtains at 2 giant windows were closed. There was a bed in a gloomy corner, containing a breathless man, who sat up dressed in silk pyjamas. "Your correspondence, sir," the butler said grandly. Then he looked at Lauren. "I'll wait outside and lead you back." As Lauren stepped up to Joel Regan, she caught a whiff of disinfectant and noticed that the old man had an oxygen tube running out of his nose.
You must be Lauren,
Regan wheezed. Lauren was surprised that Regan knew who she was, and must have looked it.
I may be frail, but I still keep up with the gossip. Come closer.
As Lauren stepped forwards, Joel wrapped his silk-covered arm around her back and pulled her into a hug. She hated this, because his face was covered in bristles and his pajamas smelled vaguely of sick.
You're a beautiful angel,
Joel said, as he let Lauren go.
I sense great power in you and a dazzling future.
It's so amazing to meet you, Lauren said, gushing like she knew a survivor should. But all she could think about was the smell and the miserable, wasted lives of thousands of survivors around the world.
Specs and pens,
Regan said, pointing his finger towards a bedside chest. Once Lauren had fetched them, Regan pushed the glasses up his nose and began slowly pulling the letters and checks out of their slots. He signed his name with a trembling hand and shooed Lauren away when she leaned in to steady the signature book. A side door opened without a knock, and Susie Reagan stormed to the bedside. She snatched the signed letters and began inspecting them. Lauren hadn't met Susie before, but recognized her from photographs. Are you reading these, Joel? Or just signing whatever she puts in front of you? Susie asked aggressively. Have you seen this one? Joel downed his pen and looked wearily at his young wife.
Sweetheart, Eleanor knows what she's doing.
Does she? Susie said. This one is a power of attorney for our shares in Nippon Vending Industries. Shouldn't I at least fax it to Brisbane and get our people to check it out? Joel shook his head.
Our people? Don't you mean your people?
The spider is trying to cut me out, Susie said, clacking the heel of her leather boot against the wooden floor. You might be dying, husband, but I've still got a lot of living to do. And that bitch daughter of yours wants me on the first flight out when you croak. Is that what I deserve? Do you want to see me spending the rest of my life in squalor? I want joint control over the companies. How many times do I have to say it? Joel swiped his hand in front of his face.
You'll be provided for, Petal. Eleanor is my daughter.
Pity she's not the one over here at 4 a.m, calling out your doctor and swabbing chunder up your face. Joel pointed at Lauren.
Can we not do this when the girl is here? You're embarrassing her.
Don't try weaseling out of it that way.
I'm sick of this,
Joel shouted, his voice carrying surprising power for such a frail-looking man.
I need rest to get my strength back, not this constant earache from you.
With this, Joel picked up the leather binder and flung it at his bedside cabinet. The letters fluttered out in all directions, and the binder hit a vase of flowers. Lauren jumped back as it hit the ground near her feet. She expected the vase to shatter, but it bounced off the floor and the water inside began pouring out. After standing the vase up, Lauren instinctively grabbed a handful of disposable towels off the cabinet and crouched down to mop up the water before it spread. What are you doing? Susie shouted, turning her spite on Lauren. Did I ask you to do that? Get out of here, you foul brat. Lauren straightened up abruptly, shocked by the tongue lashing. What about the letters? She asked edgily. Tell the office that Susie Reagan will show them to her husband when he's well enough to deal with them." Lauren nodded before turning and hurrying for the exit. As she reached for the doorknob, Susie came charging across the floor and grabbed Lauren by the neck, clawing her with painted nails. "You speak to Rat," she spat. "You tell him that if he wants favors from me, then it better be him that comes with the letters from now on. And when he does, he brings them to me." "Okay," Lauren nodded, as she felt her pulse hammer inside the tightly wrung skin around her neck. "And," Susie added, sinking her nails in deeper, "you keep your mouth shut, madam. If you spread around what you just saw here, I will find out about it. I'll call up the school and have them paddle you so hard that you don't walk for a month. Understood?" Lauren nodded as Susie let go and shoved her towards the door.